Arizpe. I teach guitar, fine art, 6 to 12, and I have been teaching at Geneva for almost 14 years now. I was a crew chief on C-5 aircraft. It's a cargo aircraft in the Air Force, and that means that my mission was to fly, fight, and win. I loved being in the Air Force. In 3 words, I would say escape, detail, and success. I liked every moment of it. There were times that it was pretty hard. There were times when I thought, why am I doing this? More like, why do we have to do this, and what greater good is this kind of thing? I was asked to leave. It was at the end of the first Gulf War, and what happened after that war, they started downsizing and they needed people to get out, and I wanted to stay in, but I had to wait for the Vietnam era veterans to retire before I could regain seniority. And they said, well, we'll give you more on the GI Bill if you go ahead and take it out. So I took it. I was far from God. Prior to that, I was 19 when I joined, and I had just entered a time in my life when I hated God, and I was anti-Christ is what I was, and I worked actively to unhinge people from their faith. When I was a little kid, about 4 years old, I don't know that I would say that I recognized that there was God per se, as in a name or a religion, but I know that I was friends with God, and we played together, and we talked together, and He would show me interesting things about nature, the trees, the birds singing, and clouds, and just things that were always beautiful. And but then around 4 or 5 years old, bad things started happening to me. And I kept questioning, why is this happening? Why is He allowing this? And they wouldn't stop. And I finally got to the point where I hated God because He wouldn't make things stop. And I kept wondering, how can a God be so good but let all these terrible things happen to me? I came to faith on the floor of rehab. I was bottoming out in my addictions, and I was very, very physically sick. I didn't think that I was going to be alive very much longer. And I laid my head against the linoleum floor because it was cold and it felt good, and I was just nauseous and sick. And I said, God, if you're there, you're going to kill me or you're going to save me. And in that moment, I felt peace. Everything else was still painful. You know, nothing else had really changed, but I had something that I hadn't had in a long, long time, and that was hope. So I threw myself into ministry, and I began working at that church. The manager, the office manager, said, hey, Luis, someone from this school that's near here called Geneva called looking for you. They want you to teach there. So I sat at my desk and I called, and it was Mrs. Evans. And she said, we're looking for an orchestra teacher. And I was resistant. I'm playing on weekends. I'm playing rock and roll. You know, I have records. I have my own career. I don't want to go to a school. She said, what about teaching orchestra? I said, I could do that, but really I'm a lot better at guitar. I could teach guitar, kind of as a shrug off, so that I could tell the office manager, yeah, I called, so I could tell myself, see, I called, they don't want me. And I was surprised when she said, okay, cool, can you come for an interview on Tuesday? And I went, wait, what? So there I go, off to this interview. And same thing, I was trying to give them the brush off. Well, yeah, I can teach orchestra, but really I'm a lot better at guitar. And they went, okay, can you start Tuesday? And I was shocked. Geneva definitely helps my relationship with God. It's very challenging. I think that the biggest thing that weighs on me maybe is the responsibility that I have to young people after the way that I lived my life to begin with, in such a way as to steer people away from God as much as possible. But how good is God that He would use someone like me who knows that background and can understand people struggling with their faith, and who have been hurt the way I've been hurt, and who have lived in the darkness that I've lived. I feel greatly responsible to honor Him in that. The foundation that the military set in my life 100% enabled where I am now. When I was, I wouldn't come home when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, and nobody cared. I had no discipline, there was no order to my life, no structure. And when I got into the Air Force, into the military, I was taught all those things. They were instilling in me these disciplines that I never had before. A drive to persevere, a belief in self to overcome. The military gave me all of that. There's something called prevenient grace. It's when God is working in your life to draw him to himself when you don't even realize it. And I think about those times that at the exact same time that I was working so hard against him, he was working in my life to instill these things within me that I could be able to succeed for his cause later.